Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. I'm your host, the fellow KGP. Tonight we're hanging out with Drake Sanford. We got a lot of stuff to cover. I think we've been 2 weeks without Drake the last couple of weeks. He's been a very busy guy, but it's exciting to have you back on the show, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Happy to be back, guys. Ready to talk some basketball. We are in
And
playoff season.
it is the last week for our leagues, the regular season here, and we're all looking forward to the first week of the playoffs next week. Drake and I are technically battling for a first round bye in our big league, so this is kind of fun. We probably don't want to share too many of our secrets, but we're both kind of looking at the same stuff, I'm sure. But before we went live here, we were just talking and looking at this new James Harden bit of news that came out. He's recently experienced a setback in his recovery from the right hamstring strain, and he's now out indefinitely. So we're assuming rest of the regular season, at least for fantasy, we should not expect James Harden. So I don't know. Should we maybe look at the Brooklyn Nets to see what could be useful for us the rest of the way? I think the easy answer is Bruce Brown, who's already been relevant the last couple of weeks, and I think his percent ownership has been boosting up quite significantly. But what do we do with our James Harden? Like, if you're in a 10-12 man league, do we just is he droppable, or is this not enough information yet, or what do we do with James Harden?
I think we put him on that IR spot, assuming we have at least one, because it's James Harden. And we maybe wait to see what the news is going to come out here in a week or two. Because if you're looking in the championship game and you drop James Harden and all of a sudden he's back, you don't want to be that guy. So maybe I think maybe we put him in that IR spot. He's definitely that kind of valuable player where you're not questioning this. And if you're looking for a replacement, I don't know if what his availability is, but Landry Shamet, I've watched. There's been so much national televised basketball, I feel like, in this last week, and I've watched so much Nets and Landry Shamet. My God, he can go off.
So looking at his last 4 or 5 games here, he's got 35 points, 21, 19, 34, and 14. That's like a high enough floor for
Mhm.
a 12-man league. So you see the minutes are pretty high, higher than 20 minutes at least, and then 30 points in the game the other night here. So this is a good call here. He's not going to help you too much for category leagues, but he'll
Just a
pick up.
points guy.
Yeah, he's purely a points guy. As you can see, I guess what's this? Looks like 6 of his last 7 games have been in over double digits. So for points leagues, I think this is a pretty interesting call. Who's going to get elevated minutes the rest of the way here? But Bruce Brown, of course, would probably be my favorite guy. He's only 12% owned. Shamet's about 9.5% owned. So if you're looking for a direct replacement for these guys, like this, like Bruce Brown's been playing really good lately. For basically the last like 2 or 3 weeks, he's been a pretty high caliber player. In the last 7 days, he's averaging 30.5 points. So look for Brown and then look for Shamet next. And then I don't know, like, is there any because LaMarcus Aldridge retired? That happened while we haven't seen you. And then DeAndre Jordan's like obviously the big man that you want there. He's only 33% owned. But Blake Griffin's also kind of hanging around there too at 45% owned. So if you need something for a big man there, those would probably be the two options to look forward. But
Definitely with the Aldridge retiring, I think Griffin's status just goes even more up.
mhm.
Those minutes that were eaten into him, they're going to play him when they need to. And
And
I really like watching. Is that is it Claxton right below him?
yeah,
He is a fun player. And look at his last 2 games. He had that one, but even if you go back further, he plays really hard, gets rebounds, will get those easy points, those gimmies. But he's a guy that's probably going to play a lot of minutes for this team going forward because he's young and they're just trying to get that experience up. And honestly, as Kyle and I were talking before, we wouldn't be surprised if KD was out for the rest of the year. And then Kyrie went on vacation. And we'll see you in the playoffs because that's what this team's built for. So you might get some of these guys that are going to be similar to running a Piston or a Magic player and just some fun Wild West. Jeff Green
hmm
and playing very meaningful minutes for this team. So there's some options here to poach, especially with these injuries.
So the issue with Claxton is he's in the health and safety protocols. He's not playing Tuesday night. I don't know if that's a 7 to 10 day thing, but I
Okay.
know when I saw Aldridge retired was it last week? I looked towards Claxton and he had this little day to day tag. So I looked into it. I'm not
But he
sure.
did play last week.
Yeah, he did play. So like, I'm curious about this. If you have an IR spot, you can pick him up and hold on to him. This is probably a young player that they want to get more involved down the stretch here without Aldridge. So 3 of his last 4 games, he had been over 20 points. So I like that quite a bit. And then it looks like we have a couple questions here. What happened to Kawhi Leonard? Let's go look at the Clippers. So
Welcome, Aaron.
I noticed on when I was going through this, Kawhi's out at least 3 games with a foot injury. He's going to be reevaluated next week. So that's 3 games for sure. It's listed as soreness on the foot, and then Paul George will be a monster. Luke Kennard could get some more starts. So let's look into this.
So Kawhi is on vacation.
He's got something going on. So he's got a sore foot.
The barbecue.
He's been pretty dinged up lately, though. So
yeah, he's a tough fantasy player to own because he's so good.
And
he's one of those guys you just like. You know, you like to cheer for him, and he's a good player. But this is what happens. He takes these breaks.
I want to say like 2 or 3 weeks ago, we discussed like if you own Kawhi Leonard or Paul George, trying to move these guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
That this schedule that they had the fewest playoff games remaining. So if you did that, congratulations, I suppose.
Kennard was a guy I looked into last week. We should take a look at his stats. But
is there anybody here for Kawhi? I guess the one thing that I did with the Clippers is because Patrick Beverley's out for a while here, I did pick up Reggie Jackson. He's been one of my favorite players to add. He's still under 20% owned, and he's averaging about 26.7 the last 7 days. But the article mentioned
Batum was a fun play because you get that, look at those 3 positions, and a week ago he was putting up okay numbers, but
so if he's in this 27 to 30 some minutes per game range, I'm okay with it. You look at the last 4 or 5 games here. Sure, a 12, that's not fun, but if he's hitting a 35 and a 39 in a 1 week span, I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, he actually helped me beat Andrew. He was the guy I picked up that Sunday.
Okay, so at least for this week, he looks like a fairly solid ad, and he plays tonight. So I noticed Tuesday there's not a lot of games tonight. So if you needed to pick up an extra game, that would be fine here. But why is the article saying Luke Kennard picks up extra starts? Do we like Kennard? It seems like when he gets over 30 minutes, there's been some good things that happen. I don't like the
okay.
It's borderline. So if you need
it's a tough call. You're gonna take a gamble. Maybe you get that medium of a 15-point game and you're happy, but it's not pretty. That was my issue with him last week when I was looking at past stats. It just nothing added up.
Nothing sticks.
I really wanted to add this guy. What is up? Is DeMarcus Cousins on this team?
Yeah, I was gonna say. Did you notice he's played 3 quiet games with them? Nothing for fantasy, but this is kind of fun.
Yeah.
But I don't really have anything else that I like for the Clippers. Maybe Marcus Morris is a good pickup if they need more shooting. He's only 25% owned. But
I think Reggie Jackson is kind of your main. That should be your pickup if you can get him.
And I mean Beverly's out like through April, from what it sounds like, and just you can see his last 6 games. He's got a really nice high floor. I don't know what happened. I think they just beat Minnesota up pretty badly. They didn't need to play too hard here, but he's got a pretty safe floor right now, and he's only 18.7% owned. So I don't get that. But let's see what else we got in the chat room here. Aaron Keenan is asking, is Gary Harris worth picking up? Which is going to lead us to our Orlando Magic, which I've spent like yesterday and all day today just looking at these Magic players because like they have a game tonight and Thursday night. I was trying to get a guy that would help me out in 2 nights. And let's see here. He's asking about Gary Harris. We're going to let Drake talk about his guy Mo Bamba in just a second, but you're also pretty well rehearsed in the Gary Harris, aren't you? He's been one of those you like to dabble with on a nightly or sometimes a 2-game basis here.
So what do we think? Gary and I sometimes rent a hotel by the minute. So that's what Gary and I's relationship is. Look at his numbers though; they're consistent. When he gets to play, and he was getting to play a lot there with Denver before he was traded, you're going to get those 20, 22-point games. If you get a 16.5, you're fine with it because he's going to back it up. He's a very consistent player. Don't expect 40, but
Right.
he's a nice pickup to have on your team, especially heading into this playoff push. If you can have a guy that you expect to get 22 points a night,
Hmm.
that's a nice play, especially if the schedule lines up well. So I really like Gary Harris, and now he's down in the Magic. So why don't
Yep.
we assume his stats improve a little? Because
And
he's not playing with Jamal Murray, he's not playing with Jokic.
I would say
Catching two.
I want to pull up the NBA scores. I believe he started tonight. There's Orlando has like a deep cast of characters that they like to play, and I know Terrence Ross was out tonight. James Ennis was out tonight. So Gary Harris got the start along with Dwayne Bacon. So they're starting two guards tonight. So on the usually Ross will kind of throw in some minutes there too. But for at least for this week, I know Ross and Ennis are both kind of dinged up. So I like it. I like it for this week. But you ended up picking up Mo Bamba, who I was in the Mo Bamba a week or two ago, but then he got hurt a little bit, and you were able to scoop him up tonight. So what do we get here with Mo Bamba?
What we were getting is when he gets minutes, and it looks like he's kind of getting those consistent minutes outside of a game or two. He's going to put up decent points. He's going to fill your rebounds. He's going to fill your points. He's going to fill you're not going to get a bunch of assists, but he's going to get those blocks for you too. So when he gets playing time, he's performing well. So that's what I looked at. I ignored okay, he got 3 minutes in this game, so that doesn't mean anything. So look at when he's getting playing time, and then you got to assume what the Orlando Magic are, and that's just a playing time carousel.
Mhm.
And Bamba is on a limit. He is minute restricted. He's going to be for the rest of the season because he's a future, project they're protecting. But if you can get 15 to 20 minutes out of him, you're gonna like, what you're seeing.
And in a 12-man league, again, we both agree that kind of like for our worst player on a 12-man roster, we just want like 21, 22 points is like that's kind of the floor. And
Yeah.
the reason I think I remember looking into Bamba was because Kem Birch was released. So that opened up more minutes. Of course, he was going to still be behind Wendell Carter. But when I saw that happen, that's when I got interested in Bamba. And then I guess there's still a couple other guys here that are criminally underowned off the Magic. Still, I mean, Wendell Carter's 63% owned. That seems wrong. That should be much higher in 8 or 10-man leagues. Cole Anthony, who I believe you have in Sage Garden team as well, he's only at 34.5%. And then Chuma Okiki, who's been playing really, really well, he's only 26% rostered. Have you looked at Okiki lately?
Oh yeah.
And I believe Michael.
I believe he was owned, so that's why I
Yeah.
stopped looking at him.
But look at this though. This is 26% owned in most leagues. This to me, it just blows my mind how no one knows.
Yeah,
To go
I mean,
Chu.
it's the stat. Look at the numbers.
And it's
You have
also about
you have two bad games, and then the rest are just surrounded by amazing.
right. If you're playing categories, this is a great pickup for 26%. But even just regular straight up points leagues itself, like this is something really, really nice here that you're probably going to be able to hold on to for the rest of the season, pending, hopefully no injuries or anything. But I don't know. Any final thoughts on the Magic? I have been contemplating dropping Terrence Ross. I don't know if you can talk me off that ledge, but just the things I pointed
Ross
out.
is the odd man out.
That's
he's gonna keep getting this day to day, maybe for the next week. I don't know. And then all of a sudden he's just not gonna get the playing time because Ross doesn't need the playing time. We know what Terrence Ross is. All these young guys are getting the playing time going forward.
And he's got
If you
back
think the
spasms.
Magic want to win games,
Mm-hmm.
it's just not happening.
And again,
they want to get these guys. They want to be competitive, but they want to get this young core they've established. They have R.J. Hampton and Gary Harris and Wendell Carter and Michael Carter Williams, even Cole Anthony. They just have this young gray core that need to get minutes now. This is their time.
We didn't even say Otto Porter Jr. or
Otto Porter Jr. It's just a lot of young talent. And then you look at who's injured: Isaac, Fultz.
I don't know. Magic got a lot of fun opportunity in the future here. But did you see who just snuck into the comments here?
I thought this guy was blocked
This guy.
profanity.
So Dalton just did. So he's saying, can we collectively pour one out? Did something happen to Dante? He's starting. He started last night's game here. Did something
He's
happen?
playing right now, isn't he?
No, they play
Oh, no.
tomorrow night, I believe.
That was last night's game.
But Dalton, he drafted him in the 8th round here, and now he's just dropping him. So that's kind of weird. I don't know what the issue is, but for a 12-man league, I mean, I was looking at it before we went on the show, thinking I would like to maybe pick him up. But I think tomorrow night's the weird night where like everybody plays in the NBA, so like everyone's got a full schedule probably, so it's gonna be hard to get him in. And he also says you're going down, so I wouldn't mind it. We'll see.
I agree, Dalton. Curry is just I can't get this guy out of my head. He's just too good. So hopefully Isaiah Stewart comes back and just continues to put up 50-point nights against you. And I don't have to worry about this rumble next week.
We'll get to Isaiah Stewart in a little bit, but Aiden's asking, should we drop Harden? And because
Can we talk more about the Dante drop? I mean, is there a reasoning behind this?
Yeah, Dalton, if you want to type us up your reason for this Dante drop, or was it just because I want to see who he picked up here, because I think it was one of the guys for the Pelicans here that had, yeah, I was looking at Najee Marshall all day today, who has been playing pretty well for them. 20 points last 7 for Dante. I just needed, so he just was looking for some roster.
Roster. Okay.
Yeah. But this Najee Marshall actually has been playing pretty solid minutes for them the last handful of games here. You're looking, I'm almost like.
Yeah, I watched him in the Knicks game.
Yeah. So, I mean, if 17.5 is one of his floor games going forward, this is looking like a pretty solid pickup. And I mean, 2 weeks run of playing, more than 23 minutes per game. So I did look at him pretty heavily. But let's see. I got to get back on top of some of these questions here. So I'm probably dropping James Harden to get Donovan Mitchell back. I think Mitchell will be back in like a week or so. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. We picked Reggie up for the back-to-back. Reggie. We're talking Reggie Jackson.
Reggie Bullock?
Reggie Bullock, yeah. I'm like, Reggie Jackson? I don't know, man. Reggie Bullock is, yeah, I did look at that because isn't go to the Knicks here. The Knicks have been playing ball. Did you end up watching some Knicks the other day?
I've watched 3 Knicks games in the last week. One was on NBA TV in Vegas, and the other 2 were on national television. And I was messaging you and John the whole time, and not a single word. It's like the Knicks. I'm watching the Knicks on live TV right now. What is going on? And they look good.
Yeah, they're playing very good right now. Derrick Rose
defense is insane. Noel. I don't know if you got to see that. You should pull up that highlight at some point.
Block on Ingram?
Yes.
Yep.
That ended the game for the Pelicans.
Uh-huh. So Nerlens Noel has been on the uptrend the last couple weeks here. He's back into his high 20s. He's flirted with a 38 and a 43. So he's still pretty low owned here. He's only 31% owned. So I would go pick up Nerlens Noel right now. But I think he's asking. Oh, he is. Aiden did say Reggie Jackson. So we'll look at Reggie Jackson later here. Should I just drop all my injured players? Yeah. If they're injured at this point going forward, especially if you're in the playoffs right now, like you're on a 1 week basis here.
It depends. It depends what the injury is and what you're looking at, Aiden. I think we would need to know more about your roster and what you're kind of getting at with the injured players. I don't think I would just suggest dropping a bunch of players.
He's got Dame, Kawhi, KD, Harden, Levine, and he's in the playoffs this week. So you can dump Harden. Maybe, I mean, you got to get through this week to even be able to use Donovan Mitchell. Levine might be back towards the end of the week. And who knows? I mean, we already know Kawhi's out the next 3 games, so he's not going to be useful.
I'm probably cutting Kawhi. I'm cutting Harden.
And so what's up with –
This is a cutthroat league. Wow.
Yeah. Yes. I just want to see what's the official injury on Mr. Lillard. So he's got a hamstring injury. His 3rd straight game that he's been out. His next chance arrives Wednesday. So it looks like you're going to get you're gonna get Damian back pretty soon here. So I don't know. I definitely would let Harden go, and I don't know if you have room for Mitchell, I would go ahead and collect him back.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see.
Oh, he's versus Curry and Joel in the playoffs.
Yep, and it's a 2-week playoff for the
Okay.
first. You say
2 week
so
playoffs, so we got time, Aiden.
yeah, so
We can let them make their hits this first week, and then we can reevaluate this.
So Drake, we should we're gonna pull up the Detroit Pistons here right now, and you can give us
Detroit basketball Pistons.
So you haven't watched any Detroit Pistons lately, have you? Just some box scores?
Is there a reason to watch the Detroit Pistons lately?
I think this guy would be it. If there was one reason, you got Isaiah Stewart here, who you look at his last 3 games. Drake, tell us what we're looking at here.
We're just looking at a guy getting the best of his opportunity and playing lights out. I mean, look at those games, and he's getting the minutes and getting just all the opportunity in the world. So,
and you see 32 minutes, 24 minutes, 32 minutes. If he's in between that average the rest of the season, this is probably the one of the best pickups you can make at the moment right now for the rest of the season. He's only 32.8% owned, but he's seen a 26% spike over the last 7 days. And this is kind of directly correlated to Mason Plumlee kind of being in and out. And Dalton's feeling the pain here and missing out on this 55.5-point game. But I think the cat's kind of out of the bag with this one right now. What are the Pistons? Are they the clear? I mean, they're 18-40, so they got to outsuck the Magic to get that higher lottery pick here. But Houston and Minnesota.
Don't leave the Cavs out of outsucking.
Yeah.
Two games.
It's 2 games. It's 2 games. So I just think, again, I don't know how much we've talked about it on this show, but it seems like that's been one of the major themes on these not so good, these bottom tier teams. You're going to see a lot of turnover and opportunity for the young players. And I would look no further here than Isaiah Stewart is probably one of the best pickups for the rest of the season, so they can see what they really have out of him. Any other quick Pistons thoughts real quick? Do we want to look at Sadiq Bey? Do we want to look at
Hayes, man? Let's look at my boy Hayes.
All right, let's pull up Killian Hayes. He's still kind of on he gets like the second night of a back-to-back off, which it's fine. You might have to kind of, pump the gas and the brake with him now and then and pick him up every now and then. But when he plays, the last 3 games has been pretty good here.
Especially when I saw that he was playing OKC, I just thought, wow, this is the perfect opportunity. So when he's playing bad teams, look when he played the Cavs, how he did good. He plays Portland, he gets owned. He plays Sacramento, he does okay. He plays OKC, he puts up another 37. So it's an opportunity, if you can add and drop him. I choose to just keep him, but you don't certainly have to play him every game.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's a pattern there when he's playing talent that's at the Pistons level.
So they play Dallas tonight. They play San Antonio tomorrow night. Indianapolis.
And Dallas is garbage on defense, so you might as well play him.
So, and he's probably not going to play tomorrow. I guess on the 22nd. So that does make sense to maybe get him in tomorrow night. And then he got some other games down the road here. But anything else? Like I've been looking at Sadiq Bey quite a bit lately. He's been starting to get more consistent. You just look at his numbers all the way back to like the first week of April here, and you're seeing some good things. Only 1 game under 20 fantasy points here, but his minutes, man, usually over 30.
He's a good pickup right now.
And you look at the scoring, you're starting to see more double-digit games here. He's also starting to spread into this. Look at the steal column. He's been nipping steals on a consistent rate the last few games here too. So 24.5% owned. I think as far as 10, 12-man leagues, that's where you'd probably be looking into him. And again, awful team. They're going to want to get this kid ready for next year, and he's probably going to be one of their leading players in minutes the rest of the way. But anything else stick out here for you with the Pistons?
Not so much.
What do you want to look at, Drake? That's because you've been gone for 2 weeks. What does Drake have on his mind for fantasy right now?
Honestly, I'm just kind of been paying attention to this playoff push with the NBA, and then just paying attention to my own fantasy team and trying to keep up with that. But
Mhm.
the NBA itself right now is we have games Tuesdays. We got those TNT Tuesdays back. We got all that stuff back. So I've just been watching a lot of games
Mhm.
and enjoying getting to see some good basketball right
Mhm.
now. So I don't know. Maybe we can talk about that. Maybe we can talk about our feelings on the playoff push, teams that are going to be relevant for fantasy purposes going forward.
So I just I pulled up the standings here on the main screen here, and we were kind of talking about this at the beginning before we went on air. But the Washington Wizards are sitting here, basically tied with Chicago Bulls for the 10th, 11th spot here. And I still think technically the Wizards and the Raptors both have an opportunity to get into this. And right now the Pacers are dinged up. I kind of want to. I kind of wanted to get to the Pacers at one point tonight,
Let's hit the
but
Pacers right now.
yep. So all of a sudden, you're looking at here. I'm just filtering by the last 7 days for points. We'll start with Sabonis at the top. I know he's not playing tomorrow night. He's got the night off with a back injury, so lower back injury. So he's out for tomorrow night. That should be something just kind of like a random game off. But Miles Turner is out for the year, partial tear on the plantar plate in
Hey,
the
hey,
big
hey, 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 hey. It says indefinitely. Doesn't
out.
say year.
Well, indefinitely, a partial tear in the plantar plate for especially a big man with a toe. Um,
It's not good, guys. He's on my team. I'm holding on so much hope, but
I'm just thinking,
from a professional advice, Turner's done. Turner's
yeah.
done for.
At least the regular season. We don't have him anymore. If you were to make the championship week of your playoffs, that would maybe be when he's available. So I'll hold it out for that.
Yeah.
But basically, for fantasy, Turner can be dropped here, and then his backup, who one of the guys in our chat room, Justin and I were talking about him last night on your comments, but it was Goga Badatz, and he goes out and has a pretty nice game in the center position. But then he hurts his what did he get hurt with? His left ankle was sprained. So if you're looking for someone to directly plug in for Miles Turner, it would be Goga here with 34 fantasy points, 7 and 9 last night, 5 blocks. So keep an eye on him if he's able to go back again. But I don't know what this is a big loss for Miles Turner, that he was their major defensive piece in the center of the floor there, and I don't know. I think this hurts Indianapolis's chances quite a bit.
Yeah,
Indiana,
I don't see this team being a playoff team though, to
and
be
at the
honest.
moment, they got 2 games on the Bulls and the Wizards, 2.5 on the Raptors. I think they're. I still think
But
Chicago. They're still getting used to playing with each other.
yeah,
It was a pretty rough start the first 2 weeks when everybody was new, but they're 5-5 over the last 10 days. I would expect them to continue to gain more chemistry and maybe hop the Pacers at some point. But the Wizards are coming in hot, 7-3 in their last 10 games, and the Raptors are coming in at 6-4. Um,
you
I
got
don't
to
know.
really like the Wizards right now.
Mhm.
5 game win streak, Russ just playing danger. This is what we thought was going to happen in the East when Russ got into the East. Is he's going to just will one team into contention, and it's
And
the Wizards at this point.
he's kind of taken over the fantasy MVP. Like, the first half of the year was Bradley Beal was the beast on that team.
Mhm.
I know Westbrook was out a little bit, but Westbrook has basically said, "I am the captain now." And you look at what he's been doing for fantasy, like this is pretty elite production over the last month or so of
Yeah.
numbers. You see this 87-point game down here back in the last one of the last days of March, but he's just flirting with 50 points, sometimes 60s the last 5 games. It's pretty. Look at these triple doubles, man. Just like big ones too.
It seems that we forgot who Russ was. At some point, we were idiots and we forgot who Russ was because I mean we saw him in OKC when he was the guy and what had happened. So we're sorry, Russ, but he's just an elite fantasy standing right now, and I think he gets this Wizards team at least into that playoff contention game. And then, do
Mhm.
you really want to play Beal and Westbrook for a 1 game plan? I don't know.
I don't want anything to do with those guys for one game. But I'm kind of looking around here and seeing if anybody else is useful. This Daniel Gafford here, who's on Dalton's team, in our league here. He doesn't play a lot of minutes, but look at what he does with these minutes. Only one game over 20 minutes. And the rest of his numbers, he's got 6 straight games over 20 points. So this is definitely one of those guys that is a high points per minute player. If something happens where he's able to get more minutes going forward, this could be really, really nice. So that's Daniel Gafford there.
What do we
Anybody
think about Bertans?
else?
He's that guy. He's the hit or miss.
Bertans, but he's been kind of in and out of the lineup lately. He's been kind of on and off, but you look at his numbers the last 3 nights, 22, 25, 27. The minutes are there. The points are there. He's not a big rebounder assist guy. He's not a big helper in the other category.
Yeah,
definitely not.
You got to get the points.
Definitely not there. So for points, as long as Russell Westbrook's picking up 15 assists per game, like Bertans is going to be cashing in on probably almost 5 or 6 of those a game opportunities wise. So I like Bertans. Again, he's their 4th best player over the last 7 days. And then it drops off kind of quick here. But Rui Hachimura, did you drop
Can we talk about the biggest disappointment on the Wizards? And that's exactly what you're talking about right now.
Rui?
Yeah, just it's. I mean, you thought he was getting the golden goose here. He's got Beal. He's got now Westbrook, who's going to dish out these assists, and it hasn't happened. I finally cut bait. I need a roster spot, so
it's been a tale of 2 halves for him. Before the All-Star break, he was playing fine. But over the last couple weeks, you see he's only had a couple games over 20 fantasy points. The minutes are still there too, which is odd. And he's got this knee injury thing. So I don't know if maybe he's just kind of dinged up and not 100% right now. Maybe that's the case. But he's kind of a fringe guy in 12-man leagues right now. And then,
which is sad. I mean, I had so much hope for him this year.
Nobody else really sticks out. So if you're looking for a Wizard player, I mean, Westbrook, Beal, of course, but keep an eye on Gafford. And then maybe pick up Bertans, who should be widely available in most leagues. But I personally, like, if you had to pick the matchups, let's say, are we locking in like the Hawks? We can't even really lock any team in at the 4, 5, or 6 spot yet. You know, that's a half decision.
We can't. Well, so the only decision we have is to go off of what the standings are right now.
Yep, and I think I don't want the Hornets in. I think I want the Hornets out.
The Hornets are not a playoff team, so let's push them out, and let's put the Wizards in.
I want to watch the Bulls and Wizards in the play-in game with 2 of the teams above them, but I think I'm going to pull the Hornets and Pacers out.
Okay,
and we'll push the Wizards up. And I guess technically one of the Hornets and Pacers can get in. I don't know if the Raptors are right there too, but that's pending everybody get healthy. But for one game, if everyone's healthy for the Raptors, that would be kind of a tough game.
Yeah.
So I'll leave the Pacers in there too. So I'd like to maybe see the Hornets pull out, but we can go on looking at the West now. So what do you got? What are we looking at here? Is there's a clear line kind of developing here? San Antonio's locked in right now at the 10. And the Pelicans are 3.5 games. Like, is this almost decided that we have our 10 teams here, and it's just going to be depending on the order the next couple of weeks?
I think so. But 3.5 games is only 3.5 games, and this whole thing was built for the Pelicans. So, it'd be nice if they could do it. I don't know. I think the Spurs have a nice system going, and they're going to be just in this contention. Same with the Warriors. So I think we're pretty comfortable keeping this.
Yeah, it would take for the Warriors to fall back. It would take a Curry injury for him to be out 7 to 10 days or something like that. And with the Spurs, the Spurs are just a deep team, and they just play good team ball. I can't see them kind of tanking or anything like that, especially as well coached as they are. So it would have to be like the Pelicans, like in a 10-game span, they'd have to go like 8-2, just something way above average where they just get, clicking. So I wouldn't rule it out, but the way that Curry's playing right now, I can't see it. Memphis has been dinged up, but even then they still play pretty well with.
Guess who's coming back
to Memphis?
Guess who's coming back, and it's going to be Jaren Jackson Jr.
because I saw him on your team when I was looking at him the other day, so I
I think
figured.
he's coming back next week.
And the thing with Jackson is I've been looking because I like to read on his little bio,
Hmm.
and now they're starting to list him as will not play. He's questionable or doubtful.
Yep.
He had a doubtful tag a couple days ago, so it's getting close. I don't know. I mean, you're not going to get a bunch of minutes out of him right away, maybe 12 to 15 minutes that first game. But if you can kind of build a couple good games together, this might be a guy.
If you're a team that's gone through injuries, you've had your second or third round pick get out, and then all of a sudden your other guy, fifth round picks out or whatever. This is a guy to pick up.
Hmm.
Um, just because it's a flyer, I don't even know if he'll play at all this year. All signs are pointing to Jaren Jackson Jr. playing next week, is from what I've read. But when he's in there, you're going to get solid minutes, and I think it's only going to build. And this is a team that's fighting for a playoff spot, so I
Hmm.
think they've held him out for this reason. They're not rushing him back, and they're going to put him in there, and they're going to unleash him. So
And
I would assume maybe 15, 20 minutes.
yeah, Dalton recalls we told Dave to cut
We
him on the.
did at the
I
time.
personally,
I mean, it was at the time.
I don't think Jackson's gonna help us, and especially because this was like a month ago, and I mean at that point like we weren't getting anything on Jaren Jackson, so I
I
think
think the report when we sold him to cut was he's going to be reevaluated at the end of April, and they'll decide from there. So at
right.
that point, like you got to cut him.
And
So
I mean just looking at this Memphis, like I just
if
watched.
he doesn't play another minute, then I wouldn't be surprised.
So I was at the Memphis Bucks game on Saturday night, and Memphis is deep. If you look at Melton, Morant, Valanciunas, Brooks, Anderson, Grayson Allen, Tillman looked pretty good in some spot minutes. Brandon Clark, and then that Desmond Bain is actually really electric too. And then they still have Tyus Jones, so they're playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They have 10 legit players that are in their rotation. So I'm just wondering with Jaren Jackson, like I would like him to see some minutes, but I don't know if it's going to be anything significant enough for fantasy quite yet. So again, if you wanted to pick him up and hold him in your IR spot, that's totally fine. But we got to see him on the floor first. So 52% owned though. People are still holding. They're still.
I think you're overrating that we need to see him on the floor. I think when Jaren Jackson's on the floor, we'll know it. And
Well, I mean,
it'll
people
be
still are holding on. The fact that he's 52% owned is pretty significant. But again, I mean, we're not going to see him get 20 plus minutes right away. So I
that's
think
true.
again, once I guess this is probably the last chance to get him, kind of without people noticing him. If as soon as he plays, his numbers are going to jump up. His ownership numbers will jump up pretty significantly. So interesting there. We got Mike Butter in the chat room tonight. Are we picking up LaMelo if he's chilling?
I think I saw his wrists needed to be 100% healed or something before he was going to play. But I read a report today. I believe that's what it was talking about.
So this is from yesterday. The wrist is healed and he's been cleared to return to individual basketball activities. But I did see that he was working out on individual drills, but he's just trying to gain strength in that wrist
Yeah.
right now. So maybe
I think that's what I read, that he was, he's been cleared, but is it back to 100%? I don't think the Hornets are pushing him to get back.
so maybe in 7 to 10 days at the earliest. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Long
If you
term.
can add LaMelo Ball, why wouldn't you, right?
Yeah, I think you have to if you can.
If you have an IR spot or you have an empty spot you're not going to use, go ahead and pick him up.
This Hornets team, like 2-3 weeks ago, they were sitting in this 4 to 6 range here too, and it's right there. So I do think there is a little bit of urgency to get LaMelo back into the swing of things and have a handful of games before the playoffs, right? You want to get him kind of roared up and ready to go, as long as that wrist is nice and healthy. So yeah, go pick up LaMelo. Yes, Stewart on the Pistons, and we dropped Wendell. Ooh. It's a good move. I think Wendell Carter should be owned though. If you can try to get him back for somebody, I definitely would try to do that.
Yeah.
And
Dort's been an interesting guy. I think I read a stat the other day that he is the guy that's matched up against the opponent's best offensive scorer the most
Mm-hmm.
or something. So, and he's been playing extremely well, but now they're gonna sit him a little and protect him.
So this like we got to get our Thunder talk in, and
Thunder.
we'll look at the Lakers after this one, Aiden. But the Thunder, the Chocolate Thunder. Let's see here. So, I mean, they got nothing to play for. Third worst team in the West. But if we go look at our handy-dandy schedule here for the rest of the fantasy season, we're going to filter Week 18's games. We got 3 teams with 5 games next week. Dalton, if you're still listening, you can turn this off now. But we got Dallas.
Dalton, be quiet.
Yeah, we got Dallas, Oklahoma City, and Toronto. 3 teams with 5 games. I'm trying to pick up 2-3 players from these teams if I can. And that leads us to OKC. And this is the team that we've been looking at very closely the last handful of weeks just because I've noticed this 5-game.
Are you having fun with Alexei there?
Poku?
Yeah. I was having fun with him last week.
When it's good, it's good. I mean, I had him for this nice little run earlier, or I guess late March, early April. But then I
had him from this little stretch.
For this?
Yeah, and then he hit that 3, and then I dropped him.
I think what happened was I might have had him for 1 or 2 of these games. We might have.
Yeah, I had him at this 32 game. I think.
There we go. So you dropped him on the 4th. I dropped. Ooh, even Zion got into this.
Wow, this is a bicycle.
This is a well-rode bicycle.
How long did I own him?
All right, so you owned him you owned him for 3 days, the 2nd through the 4th. I picked him up on the 4th. So here you go. You got him for a little bit here.
Okay.
And then so we bounced around here.
Yeah.
So Dalton's saying he's got the Dort. Dort's only 46% owned. He's been kind of in and out of the lineup lately, though. He's questionable with a hip, but they
should probably sit him the rest of the year.
I mean, let him play 2 games a week.
I'm just saying that because of Dalton.
Yeah.
I think that's a realistic. We'll see some rest games from Dort probably. He's a key piece for them going forward.
I think he's going to be a fantasy stud next year alongside SGA, and
he fills out so many different categories. He's not just good at one thing, and then he's been putting up a lot of points.
And I remember making a comment with John on here, and I said something about Dort being like a key piece of their future. Like Dort's gonna get a bag of money soon if he keeps playing like this throughout.
Probably this year.
Yeah, throughout this
he'll probably get a contract because I think the Thunder have been doing that. Just now they can sign him. Sign him for the cheap for the future.
We're setting this up here. The Thunder have 5 games next week, week 18.
I assume Dort plays 3 of those.
Okay, that's fair. So Dort, good for roughly 3 games here. I like picking up Poku. We still don't know how to say his name, but I'm going to say Poku. And it was kind of a weird game the other night here, only 14.5 fantasy points. He had 6 turnovers. That's kind of uncharacteristic. But 30 minutes, I'm going to take that. So he's a guy definitely. If he even gets 4 games, you're looking at 100 points. So he's good. He's a good person to add here. Darius Bazley, he might be one of the safest guys. You just look at what his numbers have been. He's only got 1 not so great game here, but if he's healthy, he's going to get 4 games, and you're going to get easily over 100 points just from this player alone. Did you see the Moses Brown stat line the other game?
Yeah, Moses has come down a bit.
2 straight nights of no points.
It was his knock coming in, so we're gonna see him kind of evolve, and you're gonna get some of these 12-point games and that kind of stuff, and that's what you're gonna get with Moses. He's not gonna be this consistent, and it's just what the Thunder are. They're gonna play hot hands. Roby came back too.
Yep.
I think that was a big.
I think Roby he's out tomorrow night, so Roby might be one of those guys you have to check with him, on a daily basis next week. But if you're looking for a guy that you can kind of just plug in for 5 games, I think it's Theo Maledon, who, again, he's got a low floor of, 11, 12, and 15s, but he's going to be in these upper, mid-20s for the most part. You get 5 games of him, you're looking at 100 points, through that week. Tony Bradley is also another guy that I think you can just kind of hang your hat on to get 5 games guaranteed, and he'll pour in some 20s. He'll get, of course, like a 12 or something now and then. But I like Tony Bradley for 5 games next week. So
Absolutely.
get familiar with some of these guys on the Oklahoma City Thunder. And then Aiden was asking us to go look at the Lakers,
which is also a free for all right now.
Yeah. So we still don't have any clarity on LeBron and AD. We know it's probably not going to be towards week like 19 or 20. So we're still a little ways out here. But I also saw Aiden say to him, look at KCP. So
KCP went off. I looked at picking him up actually 2 days ago.
So is this I just want to look at the schedule here.
For Dalton's purpose, I picked up Lamb instead, which was a huge mistake.
But. So interesting to note here, the Lakers are one of those teams, weeks 18, 19, and 20. They have 4 games every week. So that looks like a pretty solid bet there. And I just think as long as AD and LeBron are, you got to imagine one of them guys are going to be back towards the end of next week. So it looks like these minutes, I don't think these minutes would be too disruptive, with KCP here. Drummond's minutes are going to be massively affected here. Anybody else here that looks?
Horton Tucker, probably. If you're playing him, that's going to change a lot, but he's also a great hand to play right now. We talked about that 2 weeks ago, and it's still relevant. So he's only 10.3% rostered, so not enough people watch this show.
And so this is where my mind's looking at this right now is I'm looking at these numbers. I want a guy for 4 games. And I like to look at, okay, what did he do in the last 4 games here? You get a 16, you get a 14, whatever, but you're getting rewarded with a 36 and a 44. And he's kind of been that way throughout, all season here. So if you're just patient with the guy like Horton Tucker, that could pay off on a weekly basis. Maybe not, he's not going to impress you every night, but he will almost every other game here. Mike Butters asking, should I pick up Bay and drop Dort because OKC wants the top picks? That's a good question. Should I pull those two names up in a comparison tool, Drake? Would you rather have Sadiq Bey the rest of the way or Lou Dort?
I kind of lean in toward just going with Bey right now. But if Dort's healthy, there's no reason to think he's not going to play. Mm-hmm. So I'm probably holding Dort here. And just, look at the numbers when he does play.
Mm-hmm.
Bay's a risk.
And so here's the difference. In the last, I'm looking at the total points per game here. 42.9 for Luguentz Dort, 26.3 for Sadiq Bey. But in those last 15 games, Sadiq Bey's got 236 points to 171 for Dort. I don't think you can look at these on a points per game basis. You have to look at these at the last 7 days, the points accrued in those handful of days. So the last 30 days, that's still Sadiq Bey. We know Dort's been injured. But I think this is pretty solid and safe. This guy's been healthy pretty much all season. Just take your lumps with this 14.75 and just kind of lock in some of this nice production. So I'm taking Sadiq Bey. I think it's pretty easy. Let's see what else we got here. So yeah, I like Sadiq Bey. Would you rather have Basley instead of Dort? I'd rather have Bey. Give me Bey. I just want to see here with Detroit. So Detroit next week, they only have 3 games next week, and they got 5 games for the week 19, and then they end up with 3 games for week 20. So
I think I might take a flyer on
Basley.
On Basley there.
So if you're thinking short term here for next week,
yeah, I'm keeping Dort then.
I think I'm keeping Dort if that's how we're looking at it. So, I mean,
Dort's healthy. He's gonna end up playing all these games. We don't know how these organizations work. Bay's
only getting 3 games next week. Yeah. Dort's got an opportunity to play 5. Say he plays 3. That his 3 games are going to be more than Bay's 3 games. And if you get that 4th game, that's where it makes sense to do it. So,
So I think I think we assume he plays 3, and
assume he plays 3. Pray for 4. Hallelujah, plays 5. and K to that team or Jalen Green's. Yes. Mike Butter saying Dort is like Drew Holiday. Interesting. I can kind of see that.
That's a good comparison.
Um,
See ya.
so Mike's asking, what about Cole Anthony? Would you rather have Cole Anthony or one of these
I would rather have Cole
OKC?
Anthony. Cole Anthony's
And I'm
healthy.
just looking at it. Here's another thing too. Orlando ends up playing 4 games after this week. They play 4 games every other week, going to the end of the season. So Cole Anthony is a pretty safe play. I mean, he's one of their first picks, their first round picks last year. So he's not going to like lose minutes unless he's injured.
Yeah.
So, Dort or Cole Anthony?
Cole Anthony for sure.
These are the decisions that I think are pretty fun. So I'm willing to go with Cole Anthony. And then again, I mean, you brought up the point that OKC is probably going to be really finicky with their minutes and their stuff. And I just think next week's going to be kind of like a whack-a-mole trying to find the players that we need to get into our lineups. Looks like
next week's going to be insane. We're going to have, for the first time probably all year, 6 teams going for players. I mean, this is fantasy basketball. How many players are competing daily? Not often, but
Mr. Mike Butter, I think Drake and I think we would both give us Cole Anthony. I think I'll pull up Cole Anthony into this mix here too.
Yeah.
But I mean,
if you have the opportunity to drop door and get Anthony, then do that.
Just in the last 7 days here, Cole Anthony's averaging 30 points per game. That's significant here. The minutes he's playing right now too, and he's actually playing pretty well. I don't even think that game at halftime. So he's got 23 points like at half right now. 16
Not
minutes.
Even at half.
32. He's got 6 points. He just hit a 3 ball. So he's got 9 points, 6 assists, 4 boards, and a steal. Let me go back to this point. So the man's got 23 fantasy points at halftime. Let's go get Cole Anthony on this team, Mike.
Yes, please.
I think that's a good call. And then he's asking, do we drop Okiki? I don't know if you were here earlier. We did talk briefly about the Orlando Magic. I don't think I want to drop Okiki, but
I think Okiki was a guy we liked.
I'd rather have Sadiq Bey than Okiki, though. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree. I would take the Bey Cole Anthony combination over Okiki.
Yep, makes sense.
You don't want to be stuck with too many Magic.
All right, Mike's going to put his roster up on the screen here first in a sec. Dalton's asking, who's going to roll the dice on DeAnthony Melton? The problem with Melton, we were just pulling this up here. We just looked at the Memphis Grizzlies. These guys, they have 10 players that they can actually rely on. It's a very deep squad. And Melton, he got the start last night. It was overtime. He got 41 minutes. I don't see that being consistent. But you've had DeAnthony Melton on your team kind of on and off, haven't you?
Way before, when he was.
So he's been injured for most of April here.
Ja was out.
But you look at what he was doing, at the middle of, I guess, the end of March, early April. He's very inconsistent. So that makes me a little bit hesitant. I have to look and see what's the full injury, because he started for Dylan Brooks. So let's pull this up.
Well, he was getting a lot of playing minutes when Ja was out.
Yeah, and I just think so. It's a thigh injury for Dylan Brooks. It's left thigh soreness. And I mean, this is a guy that's going to be one of their biggest minutes players here. So that does put a little damper on the Melton news. Grayson Allen torched the Bucks on Saturday night. This man, they really didn't have an answer for him. He just played 43 minutes last night, so he's been high up in there minutes wise here too. So I don't. But yeah, just looking at Memphis week 20. Week 20, when it gets to Memphis, that's when we'll
hold for now.
Yeah, definitely. Cole just hit a 3 as we said that. 5 games. Who's that? What's this 5 games, Dalton? Is that Dylan Brooks out 5? What's going on here? And Aiden's asking us to look at Kevin Herter, and he said he needs John Collins to wake up. So this is our cue to go do our weekly Atlanta check here. We're going to look at Bogdan Bogdanovich's numbers.
Bogdan.
Drake's favorite player, Bogdan Bogdanovich. So in the last 7 days here, their leading player has been Clint Capella, who last night he kicked my ass. Yeah, 25 points and 24 rebounds. Look at these numbers. These look like Isaiah Stewart numbers. But man, Clint Capella
already at half, 14-13.
31 and a half at half, 14-13. In this game, it's a blowout. They're up 17 at half here too. So
Kyle's hoping Capella sits.
He needs to take a night off one of these games. But to be honest, I got some tricks up my sleeve yet to make a run at Schmitty. But the last 7 days, Capella's their best player on the Hawks. Bogdanovich number 2, Trae Young number 3, and Kevin Herter is on a little run here. He had 45 fantasy points the other night, 23 points, but his
21.
The 9 rebounds in that game, that's kind of rare. And he's also been kind of, spreading out his stats a little bit more, which is nice to see here. So this is a player, you look at, the man's been over 20 fantasy points since April 1st. Only 60% owned. So if you play in a 10, 12-man league, this is something that needs to be picked up here. But any other thoughts on John Collins, man? Not getting the minutes here that he was before injury.
It's been a tough year for Collins.
Capella just took everything, all of his.
He thought they could do something together, but yeah.
And Collins is not a backup, so maybe he's not.
Maybe he's a trade thing. Maybe that happens. Collins.
As far as guys,
I saw Collins mentioned a couple times during the deadline.
Mm-hmm.
So
as far as owning Atlanta Hawks, Capella, Bogdan, Trae, and Herter, that's really the only 4 that you can touch right now. We're still Gallinari's out for a little bit yet. Gallinari was good to me throughout March, so I'm keeping an eye on him to see if he can come back here. But we're going on about 57 minutes, so I'm just looking at some of these comments here. So we got about 4 minutes left. If you guys got any more questions, hit us up in the chat. Mr. Mike Butter just posted his team in here. So he's got Drew, Karis LeVert, Brandon Ingram, Okiki, Trae Young, Bridges from Charlotte, Karl Anthony Towns, Jeremy Grant, Bogdan, Bam, Wood, Dort, and Stewart. This looks like a pretty damn good team.
Yeah, I think he's set.
Do we cut Jeremy Grant?
Yeah, I think Grant's probably who are we picking up?
Sadiq Bey. At this point, look at what
maybe we go back.
Grant's not even playing the last 2 weeks. Give me Sadiq Bey almost over Jeremy Grant. Let somebody else deal with this Jeremy Grant headache. That's where I start to, when I see this, that's where I start to think about this stuff.
And he's got enough to, fill in if it's not the right call.
I would consider getting Bey for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But with this team, I don't know. You got Okiki there, which is pretty solid. I think we did maybe. Did we say we're going to dump Dort for Cole Anthony? We're going to keep Okiki, or would we?
Yeah.
Bey
maybe we dump Dort for. Maybe we just dump Grant for Cole Anthony.
Let's just do that. Let's. I guess because Mike's asking, who to drop for Cole Anthony. At this point, Jeremy Grant, man, It's not really.
Let's go get some points.
Is there anybody else that you would consider cutting here? I'm keeping Stewart, and again, Mike did a pretty good job painting this for us. It's Okiki or Dort. I think you could keep both those guys. I mean, if you wanted to swap Okiki in for Bey, I'm okay with that. But if you wanted to just drop Jeremy Grant for Sadiq Bey, I mean, I got no problem with that either. So I think we did a pretty good job of helping this one here. Collins to Portland D. Look at De'Aaron Fox. What's going on in Sacramento? De'Aaron Fox, the last 7 days, a couple 60-point bangers here. The scoring has been off the charts. 30, 27, 33, and 43, and 30. On a run here, De'Aaron Fox.
This was a guy I was trying to get our league, but was
Fourth
just
round.
dealing with incompetence.
Mm-hmm. And this Phoenix Suns team, man, I'm excited to watch them more.
The Suns were a 1 seed at one point when I looked last week.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the Suns are fun.
Devin Booker. Booker's still kind of inconsistent over the last few weeks, but he did get things turned around. I remember that first month, people were kind of panicking on Booker. He was one of our buy candidates.
Y'all watched Booker last year in the bubble, and now we've added DeAndre Ayton, who is flashing all NBA before our eyes, and we have Chris Paul leading the whole thing, which is insane. So this team, I'm gonna be sad when they lose in the first round of the playoffs, but
we shall see.
They're fun to watch. They're a 2 seed, so.
But Drake, man, we're at our hour of our allotted time tonight. Any final thoughts on tonight before we let you out of here?
No, sir. I mean, just you guys, you got to keep plugging. This is the week. You can add guys like Cole Anthony. You can add guys like Mo Bamba. You can add, everyone else we kind of discussed, and make those playoffs. If you're already in the playoffs, look at what we already discussed with the schedule going forward. Let that play in a little, but don't just be picking up random players because they're playing for those teams. So this is the most important part of the year, right?
It's here, especially if you're making the first round next week. Look at some of those schedules that we talked about. You can go to #basketball.com. They have a really nice schedule grid. Dalton says to add Najee Marshall here. Thank you for watching, Dalton. We'll see you next weekend, Dalton. Next Thursday night, we got some plans to go and watch the NFL draft. So thank you, Mike, for hanging out in the chat. Thank you, Aiden. Thank you, everybody else, for hanging out tonight. We'll see you guys Thursday night. If you guys want to come hang out live, I'll be there too. But have a good rest of your night. We'll see you guys in another video. Thanks. Peace.